Well, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes, and Buford Davis for Veterans in Politics. Before we go on with any rants or anything like that, I just want to introduce the two guests for today. We're going to have Richard F. Scotty, partner in Kemp Jones and Coulthard Law Firm and a member of the Nevada State Bar Board of Governors. And we're going to have Andy Hayford, mayor for the city of Henderson. You guys got anything?
No rants from me today.
No rants from me either, because I want to get right to this. You got anything, Buford?
No rants from me either.
Melody, you got what? Where'd Melody come from?
She snuck in on us.
I have a kudos.
Go ahead, Melody Howard.
DMV. As I told you, I had to go to the DMV today. There were 110 people in front of me. I was out of there within 55 minutes, which basically is 30 seconds per person that was ahead of me. So I think they're really running very efficiently right now.
Wow, which office was that?
Flamingo.
Flamingo in Buffalo?
Yep.
Wow.
I was very, very impressed.
Way to go, DMV.
Yeah.
Our good tax dollars at work.
Wow. All right, well, let's take a commercial break, and if Richard Scotty's not out there, we're going to go with Andy Hayford, mayor for the city of Henderson. This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes, and Buford Davis.
Veterans in Politics takes a proactive approach to provide you, the veteran, with the political voice for which you fought and served.
Veterans in Politics is becoming the premier veteran organization of the 21st century, with political candidate interviews, insight, and endorsements.
Public speaking engagements in support of American values.
Radio shows to keep you updated on the latest in veteran and military support operations.
Providing job placement and business support.
Go to veteransinpolitics.com today and do your part in defending liberty.
Americans have been fooled by politicians about illegal immigration. They make you think that if you bring up this topic, you are a racist. Did you know that America is the only country on this planet that does not enforce its federal immigration laws? For the fear of being called a racist, I am for legal immigration. I was born on the island of Jamaica, became an American citizen, served 12 years in the U.S. military, served in Desert Storm, and received a Presidential Unit Citation, National Defense Medal, and Marine Corps Commendation. Our immigration laws serve a purpose. I understand that this country was founded on immigration, but there is a wrong way and a right way. I'm here to tell you that illegal immigration is breaking our federal laws. Why don't you call me a racist? This is Steve Sampson.
Hello, I'm Kieran Hill. I was recently unsuccessful in my bid for Nevada's Congressional District 4, but the struggle for the rights of Nevadans must continue. Gun rights require constant vigilance. The Clark County Sheriff and North Las Vegas PD have a history of not respecting state law and the Constitution. Tax rights. Nevadans already pay too much in taxes at the state and federal level. The NDAA bill is an egregious attack on our constitutional rights. For more information, go to www.kieranhill.com.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes, and Buford Davis with Veterans in Politics. We have live in studio Andy Hayford, mayor for the city of Henderson. Mayor Hayford, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Not a problem. Could you give us a bio about yourself?
Well, just real briefly, lifelong resident of Henderson. Went to elementary, junior high school, and UNLV. Graduated from UNLV in '76 with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Started with the FBI shortly after that. And then had an opportunity to go to work for Sunrise Hospital and worked there for just about a year and a half, and then with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department from 1978 to 2002.
Oh, that's it. I thought you weren't you in forensics or something like that?
A licensed investigator. We did the background investigations for privileged licenses.
Okay, you know your opponent, or at least one of your opponents, mentioned several times last week that he's not a politician. And I've been trying to figure out what does that mean, politician. But I know the difference between a politician and a public servant. In my opinion, a politician is someone that's self-serve. A public servant is someone that serves the people that elected them. Is that basically?
I would agree with that. Sure.
What are you? Because if he's saying that he's not a politician, then he must be saying that you are. So.
No, I'm a public servant.
Okay. And how would you define a public servant versus a politician?
You know what? I think a public servant is somebody that serves their community, their residents. I think a politician probably has self-serving interests of their own.
Okay. What's your relationship with U.S. Senator Harry Reid?
Well, I know Senator Reid. My daughter worked for him for 8 years. She actually ended up being his press secretary before she left the office and ran for Congress.
Yeah, I remember your daughter took on John Porter for the congressional seat.
2006 election.
There was a rumor, and I'm going to say rumor, Mayor. There was a rumor saying that when Josh Reid applied for the city attorney's job in Henderson, that Dad Harry Reid, his father, gave you a phone call and tried to advise you to hire his son. Is any truth in that rumor?
The only truth to that is, like many other people who called me, Senator Reid did call me and tell me that Josh would be running. And the one thing that I remember he did say is you never find anybody smarter than Josh Reid. So that was about the only thing he said. No pressure at all.
Did that influence your decision at all?
No, it did not. Matter of fact, I told the senator that we had some interviews coming up, and we'll have to see who does what. And he said the only thing I can hope for is that if he doesn't do good in the interview, let me know.
Okay. Let's talk about former Henderson City Councilwoman Kathleen Vermillion, or a.k.a. Bhutan. When she handed her resignation to you, did you try to convince her in any way not to resign?
Not when she actually submitted her letter of resignation. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that she was going to resign until I actually read it in the newspaper. That she was resigning.
Really?
I read it. Matter of fact, it was like 5:30 in the morning. It was around Christmas time because I had to get up early, and I was going on Channel 8 for a little spot.
What would you consider your relationship with the former city councilwoman Vermillion?
Well, I guess it takes all types of people in this world. I could tell that a couple of things. One, I don't think that she was very happy serving as a city councilwoman. And two, I think she had a little bit different idea of what serving on a city council was. And, a lot of people, I think, don't really understand serving on an elected board. There's 5 of us. And a lot of people think they're going to come in and change the world. And quite frankly, there's 5 people, 5 different opinions a lot of the time. And, the magic number on our council is 3. It takes 3 people to vote on something to pass it.
And the struggles that or the issues. I mean, the whole state of Nevada knew the issues that was going on between her and her former boyfriend, Commissioner Steve Sisolak. And when the city of Henderson recognized Commissioner Sisolak the Man of the Year, is that correct?
Didn't the Sun City Democrats did
recognize him as the Man of the Year, and all the city council gathered around him? Is that correct? Because there was a photo that showed you were one of them, and several city council members were gathered. Do you think that might have been maybe a slap in former city councilwoman Vermillion's face because of the displeasure she had with Commissioner Sisolak, and now all her former colleagues is gather around the same person in celebration? No,
I didn't think of it. That didn't even enter my mind. Actually, we supported Commissioner Sisolak. He's got a major portion of Henderson is in his commission district. And, we actually, one thing I think we do very well as a city council, besides all getting along pretty well, is we are very supportive of all of the elected officials in all jurisdictions. Matter of fact, I've kind of taken upon myself to try and rally around all the mayors in the state, and we now have a council of mayors that is kind of a subcommittee for the Nevada League of Cities.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Sergeant Seacats and the 5 stomping of the diabetic guy in the head after he was held down by 5 or 4 other law enforcement officials. Police Commissioner Wanda Chambers got an early retirement from that whole deal. Sergeant Seacats still has a badge and gun and still represents a police officer in the city of Henderson. There's a lot of folks think that he should have been kicked off the force. In fact, there's a federal investigation about him right now. Is that correct?
We understand that there is a grand jury out. It's secret, so we have no idea what that is all about.
My question is, how do you feel about that whole thing?
Well, first, you have to realize that as a mayor and a council, we really don't get involved in any kind of disciplinary action on any employee.
But the city council is the body that appoints the police commissioner.
No, actually, we do not.
The only city manager,
right? The only appointees, the city manager, city clerk, and city attorney.
Do you appoint the city manager?
We do. Okay. And then the city manager is the one that appoints the chief of police.
So the city manager reports to the council, and the police chief reports to the city manager. So you guys are still on the food chain of being the top.
If we don't like what the city manager is doing, yes, we have the ability to fire them.
Do you feel that that Officer Seacats should remain a police officer in the city of Henderson, despite what took place?
That's a very difficult question to answer. He was given discipline by former police chief Yuta Chambers, and that was, of course, ratified or upheld by the city manager. And so I don't want to do Monday morning quarterbacking.
Right.
The tape that I saw was pretty horrific, but I wasn't there. I didn't know the total circumstances, and still to this day don't know the total circumstances. So you have to rely on the system to take care of situations like this. And, Yuta Chambers issued the discipline at the time.
But she lost her job of the whole thing.
Well, and I'm not sure, to be really forthright with you, that she lost the job over the disciplinary action that she handed out. There was a lot going on, and I'll give you my viewpoint of how I would have liked to have seen things go. After we, as a council, reviewed that tape, it was pretty disturbing, I'll admit. And I felt that we should get on top of things, have a press conference, just lay everything out. Of course, we didn't see that tape until, a year or so after the incident had taken place. So, this is after the fact of everything that's been taken care of. But I felt that we should have, as a council and as a city manager and as the chief of police, done a press conference and said, here's what's happened, here's where we're at today, and, take responsibility for everything that was done. Well, internally, things didn't work out that way. There was some people that felt that we shouldn't do a press conference.
Gotcha.
And I think what happened in that case was actually that situation, and the press really ran that situation instead of us being out in front and letting the public know exactly from our point of view what was going on.
Okay. Well, let me. I only got a couple more. Let me fast forward a little bit. Councilman John Mars.
Okay.
Before the city council appointed him to fill the vacancy left from former Councilwoman Kathleen Vermillion, he made a statement saying that if he was to get appointed as city council, he would not run for that seat. Okay, and then he added that the incumbent have an advantage. My question to you, Mayor, he decides to run now. Okay, why is the city council not being upset about this, slamming him to the curb. I mean, I would. Why isn't they're not saying that he's betrayed the council's trust? Because that's exactly what he did. He outright lied to the city council. I mean, when you say, hey, if you appoint me, I'm not going to run, and all of a sudden I run, that's a lie. Well, why isn't the city council, why is the city council being silent about this whole thing?
Well, first off, I'm not sure that it's an outright lie. Okay. I believe him when he stood before us at the time of the appointment and said that he was not going to run. Okay. In the back of all of our minds, we're thinking, okay, sure, it's one thing to say that, but what if a person changes their mind? And quite frankly, at the time, one of the advantages I gave to him from some of the other appointees was that he wasn't going to run. It would be an open seat, and, it would be a little bit more fair.
So now he's running. What would you consider that to be?
Well, he changed his mind. He told me months ago. I had a very frank conversation with him.
You would consider that to be a lie? Well, or deceiving the public?
If in the first place he really felt that way and now has changed his mind, because here's what I think has really happened. Mm-hmm. I think it's been a year now. I think that he's served on that board. I think he really feels like, he's made a difference and can make a difference, and he really enjoys being on the city council. And quite frankly, he is going back on his word by running for office. Mm-hmm. Now, here's where all this boils down to, is it's going to be up to the electorate. They're the ones that are going to either decide.
But how could you believe anything he says now? I mean, if he says something new now, how could you even believe that to be the truth? How do you know that he might change his mind down the line? Because at that time he thought what he was telling you was truth, and now he changed his mind.
You know what, Steve? On an elected board, that happens all the time. People change their minds on issues that come up, and the bottom line is, once you press that button and you decide and make your vote, then that's the way it is. Right. So, I would say, in fairness to him, in the last year, the five of us have gotten along very well, and he is doing a good job. But quite frankly, it's going to be up to the electorate to decide whether or not, when he goes back on his word, is that something that the electorate can forgive and vote for him, or nobody else is elected to replace him.
Okay. Recently, the Henderson Press published an article about one of your opponents. Basically, this individual admitted that he did 5 years in the federal penitentiary, and he's an ex-felon. And I was a little thrown back when I read that, because I'm thinking if you are an ex-felon, you lose all your rights. You lose your rights to bear arms. You lose your rights to vote. Yeah. You lose your rights to run for office, unless you restored your rights.
Right.
So, did you read that story?
I did.
When you read it, what came through your mind?
Well, quite frankly, the very first thing that comes through your mind is, okay, if he's a registered voter, that means that his rights have been restored. But you don't stop there. I called our city clerk and I said, now, how do we know for sure that the rights have been restored? And what we found out, according to the election department, is that when you sign the affidavit to register to vote, you state whether or not you've been convicted of a felony. If you've been convicted of a felony, then there's an additional question that says, have your rights been restored? You answer that yes, and then you swear in an affidavit that the foregoing is true and correct. And so we have to accept all of that as being legal, and that his rights have been restored.
Okay. Before I ask Buford to jump in, is one more question. You've been on the council for 22 years.
22 years as a city councilman and 4 years as mayor now.
So 3, 4, 5,
26 years.
Do you think that's long enough? Do you think that you should move to the side and give somebody else a chance to have a new vision?
You know what? I will continue to run as long as the residents of the city of Henderson will vote for me. Okay. I enjoy what I'm doing. Matter of fact, it's been even a difference between being a city councilman and mayor. And there is a difference. There really is. And so I feel like it's a new office and a new opportunity to serve the public.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Buford?
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hi.
Ms. Mercandante said that if, going back to the question about whether rights were restored, that would only be investigated if challenged in writing by someone. So that's where that stands at that point, as I understand it.
And that's my understanding too.
Going back, going back to the Ward 3 race, just to hit on something that Steve asked, is that, do you feel as though, because he has a legal right to run, that is why you guys are sort of holding back on any sort of real comment on the fact that he is running?
Well, yes, and quite frankly, I think where this is going is, would you ask me whether or not I'm going to vote for him or not? Well, that is certainly a sacred privilege that we all have and that we take to the booth with us. And, I'll have to decide, is he doing a good enough job that it overcomes, his statement that he would not run.
Well, it does seem to me, though, as an observer of it, that, and I reviewed the audio a few days ago because we were doing some pieces on it, and it certainly was, Councilman Bateman said he would have voted for another candidate had he not done this. Other Councilman March essentially said she may have. So the fact that he said he was going to be the caretaker position was the reason that he's in here now. And now he's sort of in the incumbent catbird seat. And one could reasonably say it was a betrayal of the council. And it does seem, one could also say that the neutrality that's been kind of going is an endorsement of that. You feel like you have the right to say anything about it.
Well, and honestly, when you have your own campaign to run, I won't endorse anybody else. I've got to focus on my race, which I'm going to do. And he needs to focus on his race and do what he needs to do to get elected. So, I hope that kind of clears the air that, being, on the sideline as a candidate myself, that it's a de facto endorsement.
Okay. May I ask you about a couple of, there's particularly three major projects that have been going on in the last few years, which you've said you've been cautious but optimistic about the progress of some or all of them. If we could go one by one, the sports complex, I hear that this week there was was a crucial week. I don't know how it went out because nobody's saying anything. I assume you probably still can't.
Well, I can tell you in all likelihood there's going to be a lawsuit.
Okay.
And, I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not moving forward in the direction that we would have liked it to. I still believe those 485 acres out by the M is an excellent location for a stadium and an arena. I know there are other projects in the valley that are also trying to get off the ground, but I still believe that it would be the best location for that type of project.
Is it fair to say that the arrangement with Chris Milam is pretty much dead?
Yes. Our biggest thing, we wanted to protect the interests of this city, of course, first. The second thing, we wanted to make sure, knowing the history of him and he as a developer, that there wasn't an opportunity to flip that acreage and make a profit off it. That's not what we were looking at doing. We really wanted to have that sports arena and stadium built there, and I still do. Now, where it's at now, I don't know. We'll have to see. At the end of the day, if we prevail in a lawsuit, then that brings up some more circumstances.
And another project, which is probably even a little bit bigger in terms of the impact it could have, is Union Village. Any updates on that?
As a matter of fact, I haven't had a briefing from the Union Village group for probably about a month to 6 weeks. So I need to get up to speed on where they're at with that. I know they had some difficulties with Dignity, which was going to be do the hospital on that 160 acres out by the Christian Church, Central Christian Church. And I understand that that's kind of fallen through and that Union Village is in discussions and negotiations with other hospitals.
That's what we were is it true that Dignity is out of the running?
That's the latest word that I had. Now, I've not talked with anybody at Dignity or even at St. Rose Hospital. They haven't said to me personally that they're totally out. So, pretty sure, though, that from some of the representations from Union Village and from the city manager, that they're not going forward.
But does that imply a problem with the project, or that simply there are other people that you feel will be stronger to come in?
I don't think that indicates a problem with the project at all. I think that Dignity Health was given first, choice here because it's a local hospital. Mm-hmm. But the project works with what Union Village has laid out. And it is a great location, just as a sports center is. It's a great idea, with this integrated medical health village. And as a matter of fact, it's being looked at, from my understanding, from other developers in the nation to kind of use it as precedent setting, if you will.
And the third project is maybe lesser scale, but it's the Space and Science Center. Now, you guys voted to sever financing of that this year, but it's still not dead?
No, it's not dead. And as a matter of fact, we have a study going out, and actually a group that will be looking at, possibly a new convention center, relocation of a new convention center, maybe even tying in the Space and Science Center with the relocation of a new convention center. All these things are on the table.
And the genesis of the Space and Science Center was that it began when there was a boom, and then when the rug got pulled out from under, the financing wasn't as viable. Is that true?
Right. I think at the time, most of the council thought we have 160 acres. Thinking big, and there was a time when commercial acreage was going for like $1 million an acre. So $160 million, split the difference, say $80 million for a Space and Science Center. We really thought that this was a real thing, and a viable project. Well, now with this economic downturn, that acreage, matter of fact, I think Union Village hasn't closed on that acreage yet, and I think it's only around $17 million. I'm not sure exactly the dollar amount, but that's what runs my mind. A far cry from $160 million.
Going back to the police have been in the news a lot, Henderson Police, in the last year for various reasons. And it was true that you guys did not know about the Adam Green case until literally the day before you voted, is that, or at least the tape? Some.
I had seen the tape a week before the agreement was to be on our city council agenda.
And that was, at the time, it was Mr. Calhoun who was your city manager. Now, since then, you've, along with Yuta Chambers, Mr. Calhoun resigned, and you have a new city manager who has initiated a third-party review of the police department.
Yes.
Do we know when that comes back?
Actually, it's we have the ICMA report now, and I'm not sure if it's on this coming agenda or the agenda after that. They've made some recommendations. I've seen just kind of like an executive summary of that. They've made some recommendations that I think we'll take a look at. But also, in fairness to the police department, there was some good information that came to light, some of the good things that our men and women in the police department are doing.
And just to specify, this is a comprehensive review. It's not just about this incident, but it's the entire operation of the police department.
Top to bottom, but all the way through. And ICMA is a pretty reputable organization, and so. And Mr. Snow, to his credit, one of the very first things that we tasked him with coming on board last year was to do a top-to-bottom review of the police department, which he has done, and those findings should be coming out and be made public before the city council, like I say, either this coming agenda or the one after.
The people that I've spoken with about Chief Chambers have been very complimentary of many aspects of her time there, both in terms of her being an IT expert and other things. Now, when she left, or was she resigned? Retired. And you've got a new police chief, Patrick Morse. Can you speak to how that transition has gone?
I, quite frankly, with Yuta Chambers, had nothing but good to say about her and how she ran the police department. I thought the troops were pretty well behind her, and I think she was an effective leader. With Patrick Moores, I haven't. It's been about a year. I've had a few briefings with him. I hear good things. Matter of fact, even last night, sitting down with the assistant sheriff at Metro, and had good compliments for Chief Moores.
Which assistant sheriff?
Ted Moody.
When Chief Chambers was, I keep saying ousted, because essentially that was how it felt. The reality never really came out. Can you tell us, did the council put any pressure on any of those two individuals at the time to retire, or how did that play out?
Well, actually, I think the council, and I can't really speak for the other four, but certainly with myself and the experience that I had, because the thing that really was of concern to me the most was I go back to that press conference. And I let City Manager Calhoun know of my displeasure that the way things went down. I did not agree with that at all. And, I don't know where the other council members were at, but it was his call. And certainly after getting feedback from the five of us, he did suggest to Utah Chambers to be a good time to retire.
Just one more question. There was a lot of things about the past. So moving forward, what is it that Henderson at this point needs in the next year or two?
I really believe now over the last year, with a new city manager, a new city attorney, with a new chief of police, I think that we're moving in the right direction. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you that we do community surveys on a regular basis. And the latest community survey that we had, I'll give you a little sneak preview of my State of the City, which is actually next Thursday. That there's,
Are we invited?
You bet. Anybody's invited. It's a $45.
Oh, you're going to charge us?
Of course we have to.
Depends on your next few questions.
That's the Chamber of Commerce.
We're a nonprofit. Go ahead, man.
You bet. Anyway, more than 90% of the community that was surveyed said that they believed that the city of Henderson was headed in the right direction now.
Okay. Dre, you got anything?
Yeah, but we don't have enough time.
Oh.
You got one question for the mayor?
Yep. What? Tell me about some notable accomplishments that you've achieved being mayor, and some of the hardships that you faced.
Well, of course, the greatest hardship that I faced as a mayor the day I took office, with this economic downturn, we actually had a $90 million shortfall, a budget shortfall. And we've worked our way over the last 4 years to now we're still about $3 to $5 million of more expenditures than revenue coming in. But City Manager Snow just last week actually sat down with the executive team, and our goal, our vision is to be the premier community in America, and you can't be premier if your budget's not in the black. And so they're working very hard to be the very first community in Southern Nevada to actually be in the black with our budget. Some of the things that I'd really like to say, highlighting the last 4 years as mayor, we've had Money Magazine say we're one of the best places to live in America, Forbes' second safest city in America. We've had Business Week say that this is a great place for to retire. So those things are really bolstering, I guess, to me, and just really charged me up to even work that much harder. I've got a great relationship with all the employees, I believe, in the city, but especially our bargaining units. And as you know, and I believe it's out there on the street, the city of Henderson really is known as one of the best managed, fiscally run communities in Southern Nevada. And I think a lot of that goes back to the great relationship that we have with our employees and with our bargaining units.
Well, Mayor, I want to thank you. Maybe North Las Vegas could learn a lot from the way you manage money. Maybe you need to set up a meeting with the North Las Vegas City Council and the mayor.
Well, you know what? Actually, this goes back seriously to how we, as all jurisdictions in Southern Nevada, are getting together, and we actually have sat down and offered our help, along with other communities, for and behalf of North Las Vegas.
What's your contact information?
The email address is a-nv, all run together, @yahoo.com. We have a website, andyhaven.com, And then I'm not ashamed to do this. I'll give out my cell phone.
Really?
Of course, it is the city cell phone, but
taxpayers paying for that?
Well, unfortunately, they do. But actually, I will tell you that since it's really hard when you're already in office to distinguish between a campaign and your official duties. So during the campaign period, I pay for the cell phone cost. And that number is 373-6002. And then the
702?
702, yep. And then the campaign is 702-566-VOTE, 8683.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hafen.
Thank you.
That was Mayor Hafen, Henderson City Mayor. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes with Veterans in Politics, and Buford Davis with the Henderson Press.
Are you a business owner struggling during these economic times? Please listen up. How would you like to put your business and services in front of every resident and business in the Las Vegas Valley for less than a penny per home? Yes, that's right. I said less than 1 cent per home and business. And how would you like to have a dynamic and exciting online presence with the major search engines? How about an online video for your business and a fully optimized website with absolutely no setup fee? Hi, my name is George. If you are interested in these and other services that can make your phone ring with clients and prospects, then call me at 702-296-8394. Just call George at 702-296-8394. Thank you.
This is Jim Jonas asking you to listen to Veterans in Politics. Veterans in Politics is a weekly broadcast internet talk show hosted by myself, Jim Jonas, and Steve Sanson, president of Veterans in Politics Incorporated, that airs every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. at www.vegasallnetradio.com. Veterans in Politics' sole purpose is to teach, educate, and inform veterans on issues and the candidates that will affect them. Too many politicians say they support veterans and their issues, but their actions tell a different story. Here at Veterans in Politics, we will expose these politicians by giving them a chance to come in and explain their actions to veterans so veterans can truly make informed decisions. Listen every Saturday to stay informed and to hold politicians accountable for their votes.
While growing up, I've always asked my family, who is my father? I was told the name of a man. When I became older, I looked for this man and found him. He thought that I was his son as well, but after a DNA test, it was discovered that my family was lying to me all my life. I pressured my family to give me the real identity of my father. I then became suspicious and took my grandfather's DNA. After I buried my grandfather, 2 days later I discovered that my grandfather was in fact my biological father. I questioned myself and asked, what is my purpose on this earth? I should have never been conceived. But when I look at my 4 children, I knew that everything happens for a reason. This is Steve Sanson. Find your identity.
Well, we are back. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes, and Melody Howard with Veterans in Politics. We got Richard F. Scotty, partner in Kemp Jones and Coulthard law firm. Did I pronounce that right, Melody?
Coulthard.
Yeah. I did pronounce it right.
Close.
Yeah. And member of the Nevada State Bar Board of Governors, Mr. Scotty. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be here this afternoon, Steve. I appreciate being on your show. Thank you very much, and also to your co-host, Mr. Haynes.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'd be glad to. I'm a 25-year resident of Nevada, Clark County, Nevada. I graduated from Hastings Law School back in 1988. I practiced for a few years in California, and then I moved here. I've been a partner at the law firm of Kemp Jones and Coulthard, practicing primarily in the areas of construction, business, and real estate litigation. Since I've been the partner since 2001.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
Was that a pay raise?
Well, it might have been. It was a work raise also.
Oh, okay. You were here several months ago, and I remember you showed up with Chuck Short, right?
I did.
Was it? And I think it was a program that I was hosting called Eye of Nevada on KLAV. Yeah, and you were talking about mediations and foreclosures and all that stuff. What involvement do you still have with that program?
As a member of the State Bar Board of Governors, and my jurisdiction covers Clark County, I'm still interested in the progress of that program. So as a member representing Clark County, I've been following the quality control of the program, been following the statistics to see how it's been emerging and whether it's been successful. I've also been following the rules changes to try to determine if we have had compliance, if we've had sufficient rules to ensure compliance with the original intent, which was to force the homeowners and the lenders to come together with alternatives to foreclosure.
And why should the banks put their? Why should the homeowners put their trust in the banks?
The system requires the banks to participate in mediation in good faith. So the homeowners are putting their trust in the system, which has been established by the Nevada legislature.
Is it like the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department system?
I'm not familiar with enough with that system.
I was trying to be funny.
Okay, all right. Well, but let me tell you that the system actually requires the parties to negotiate in good faith, and if the banks don't negotiate in good faith, they can't receive a certificate of compliance, which is a necessary prerequisite for them to proceed with a foreclosure program. So if they don't come to the mediation with a representative that has authority to negotiate in good faith, they don't come with the required documents, they don't come with a proposed broker price opinion or appraisal of the property, and they don't come with options, then they can be found in bad faith by the mediator, and then the mediator will issue a recommendation of non-compliance, and they can't proceed with foreclosure.
So are there any sanctions on the banks?
Well, the sanctions are they can't proceed. If they receive a notice of non-compliance, then they have to file a petition for judicial review and ask the court for the opportunity to start over.
So let me try to figure this out. So they can't proceed. That means they can't do any foreclosures. That means that the homeowner could still not pay their mortgage and still live in the house, correct?
That's been happening where the homeowner has ultimately been allowed to remain in the home for a year or longer while the bank has decided or tried to determine what to do.
Andre?
I got a question.
Sure.
Have any banks been in non-compliance with this or balking at it?
Yes, actually, if you look at the statistics over the last 18 months, which I did in preparing for this interview, you'll see that we've had about 300 mediations per month on average. And if you look at the results of those mediations, about 45% of the times the banks have failed to do something that they're required to do, resulting in a failure to obtain a certificate. And they've done the various things I've indicated before: failure to appear with the documentation, failure to appear with someone with authority, failure to appear with the appraisal of the property, or simply failure to appear with options. So in 45% of the cases, there has been no success in the mediation. Which means, though, that 55% of the time the program has been successful, and 55% of the time that there has been a resolution by either the homeowner and the lender working out some way where the homeowner can remain in the property, a loan modification generally, or there has been an agreement by the homeowner and the bank that the homeowner will vacate the property through some procedure other than foreclosure. Generally a short sale. And
in the 55% success ratio that you're having with the program, how many homeowners are represented in that number?
Do you mean represented by council or?
I'm sorry, residents who are able to stay in their homes.
Well, let's see. If there's on average 300 mediations per month, 55% of say 165, and of those 165, maybe 10% of those homeowners keep their home, and another 10% of the 165 per month, the homeowner decides to relinquish the home. So I think we're looking at 16, 17 people per month in each of those categories.
I bet. And who is ultimately responsible on making sure that the program is running smoothly?
The The program was established by the Nevada legislature, as you may recall. Then the Nevada Supreme Court is charged with the responsibility for adopting the rules that govern the program. Nevada Supreme Court has been doing a very fantastic job of monitoring the changing needs and some of the issues in the program to make sure that the rules are drafted to solve a lot of the problems that have been emerging. They have recently appointed a commission of title companies and lawyers and homeowners and mediators and various bank representatives that have charged with the responsibility to implement or to recommend changes to the rules. And so the Supreme Court has been monitoring those very closely. And then on top of the rulemaking responsibility of the Supreme Court, Darren, we have some feedback. What's that?
That was me.
Okay.
I apologize.
Well, then there's also a quality control representative, Mitchell Sommermeyer. You guys might know him. I think he's been on your show before.
Michael Sommermeyer.
Michael, sorry. Yeah, Michael.
I'm like, who's Mitchell?
Okay. And so he's also charged with the responsibility of looking at the stats to make sure that the program is running smoothly and is being successful.
Oh, that's who I meant. Did I say Chuck Short? Because you showed up with Michael Sommermeyer.
Okay. So I think that answers your question
yes,
on who's in charge of it.
And our veterans that are listening right now, how can they get more information about the program?
Well, there's a really easy to navigate website. Just go to Google Nevada Supreme Court, and right up at the top there'll be a list of web links. You click the web link for foreclosure mediation, and then that will lead you right to another web link that says for the public. You click that again, and it'll tell you who qualifies for the program, some of the timelines for the program, and some of the benefits of the program. Now, I think you might know, but of course this program only applies to disputes involving owner-occupied residential property where the notice of default and intent to foreclose was issued by the bank on or after July 1 of 2009. Mm-hmm. So if you meet those requirements, then this is a good program for you to look into.
Now, currently you're in your second term for the Board of Governors for the Nevada State Bar. Is that correct?
I am. Thank you.
Well, congratulations. And how would this apply to our veterans who are listening?
Veterans have a lot of the same concerns that the non-veterans do here in Nevada. I mean, veterans have many different needs for attorneys, and so veterans, as anyone else, are going to be concerned that the attorneys they hire are competent and qualified and ethical, and that's one of the responsibilities of the Nevada State Bar and the Board of Governors, to make sure that there's programs and procedures to ensure that our attorneys are ethical and competent. More importantly, though, veterans come back with a lot of family issues and perhaps consumer rights issues, issues involving family law, landlord-tenant law. Many of these issues are addressed by programs that the State Bar offers called Access to Justice programs, and these are programs that are funded or regulated either directly or indirectly by the State Bar to help veterans. And let me tell you just a couple of these programs if you want. We have the Nevada Law Foundation. Now, the Nevada Law Foundation in 2011 was effective in funding 18 different programs with approximately $1.6 million to improve access to justice. And these are programs that are designed to help either poor or indigent or other members of society that need help from an attorney and aren't able to locate an attorney or to pay for an attorney. One of the largest grantees of Nevada Law Foundation dollars is the Nevada Legal Aid Society here in Nevada, and they do a lot of great work on helping individuals that need help with landlord-tenant, consumer right, family law, bankruptcy issues, foreclosure mediation issues. And so those are some of the ways in which veterans can benefit from the State Bar.
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, you talked about the poor and the indigent. What about those people where they might have been a 2-income family and now they're only a 1-income family? They make too much money to qualify for legal aid. How can those people get help in any of these? I mean, is this only for poor and indigent?
Well, poor and indigent, but also people of perhaps lesser means. And there is another program which doesn't actually have a threshold of poverty for participation, and that's the Legal Referral Service, which is another program offered by the State Bar. Legal Referral Service offers people that have come in with need to seek the assistance of a lawyer in an initial consultation at a very, very low rate. And I believe the rate is $45 an hour for your initial consultation with the attorney. There's a network of attorneys that have signed up to provide legal services on numerous topics to people that that come in seeking assistance of an attorney in this program. And after the initial consultation, then the attorney and the client are left to themselves to try to negotiate the best relationship that might meet their needs.
Okay.
And that's called the Law Referral Service, actually.
Okay. Now, U.S. Vets annually does a stand down, what they call a stand down, and that's where they take judges and lawyers to meet with homeless veterans to get assistance on things like maybe obtaining their birth certificate, social security card, getting warrants waived, or just it's like a 2 or 3 days, I think, that they do this. And I'm just curious maybe if there isn't an interest in something like that where people can get free assistance initially, to where it's just 3 days out of the year, one weekend, whatever, where they can turn around and talk to a lawyer or a judge and maybe help them with these issues.
I think that's a fantastic idea, a program that we could certainly talk about. Our State Bar Board of Governors meetings are open to the public, and the public can come hear us discuss these issues. We need to put an idea like that on the agenda through one of the board members for consideration. On top of that, if you can get 20 or more lawyers that are interested in veterans' rights, they can form a special section of the bar. We already have 22 plus sections dealing in real estate, litigation, appellate law, foreclosure, construction. We now have an animal law section. Anybody can form a section. What you need is 20 or more lawyers that are interested in putting together the bylaws and the committees for the program. It's a fantastic way for the veterans' issues to be heard.
Okay, I have one final question. The Veterans Court. We fought very hard, Veterans in Politics fought very, very hard to get the Veterans Court into legislation. And lawyers don't have a real good reputation with local communities. That was what my last question was about. However, I'm finding, and I was actually shocked to learn Sheila Leslie opened up her Veterans Court up in Washoe County for us to go and talk and meet and everything. And I was really surprised to learn that the Veterans Court had a $100,000 budget up there. They had about 50 people in the program, and it's actually funded through a $7 traffic ticket fee. All of our specialty courts, not just Veterans Courts. So I'm kind of curious, why aren't we getting that out to the general public? Because when I mention Veterans Court, they're like, that's just a drain on the taxpayer. And when in fact it's not. The taxpayer is not funding it. It's self-funded, and it provides a service to our community, whether it's the drug court, the youth offenders court. The taxpayers are saving money by not having someone incarcerated.
And it sounds like you're talking about a redirection of funds from one source.
No. It is a redirection of funds. Okay, no, but what I'm wondering is why the bar is not getting this information out to the average voter.
Well, as you see, we have a lot of programs and committees and tremendous responsibility. Our goals are to improve the access to justice, to administer and govern the legal profession, to ensure the integrity and qualifications of lawyers. We also participate in some of the processes for election of judges. We have a lot of responsibilities. This is certainly something we should look into, and I think it's a great idea to improve the functioning of Veterans Court. I support that. In terms of funding, you were talking.
I'm not talking about funding. I'm talking about consumer awareness. That this is not; these courts are not a drain on the taxpayer.
Some of our existing programs can help promote the awareness of the Veterans Court, and I will look into that for you, and we'll do the best we can to help improve it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Richard Scotty. Could you give us your point of contact real quick?
Yeah, my email address is r.scotty@kempjones.com. I welcome phone calls from any of my constituents at 702-232-0170. I'm always available to take your calls.
That's Richard Scotty, partner in Kemp Jones & Kohler Law Firm and member of the Nevada State Bar Board of Governors. This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes, and Melody Howard with Veterans in Politics.
Views and opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.